Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Season 8, Episode 44, overall 429 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles or Cadillacs, or give them a call at 519-824-0210. Tell them that CDP, aka Chris Palme, sent you, or you can email the dealership at info@barrycullen.com. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is on weeknights from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern on radio station WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, the home of Southern Talk and Sports. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everyone's doing well on this Wednesday, September 4th, 2024. We're on the eve of opening night of the National Football League. Obviously, Thursday night football with the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson taking on Patrick Mahomes and the world champion Kansas City Chiefs. And then the Philadelphia Eagles, Fly, take on the Green Bay Packers Friday night at 8:20 in Brazil as well. And I'm looking forward to it. Today, I have a special guest. This is his second time on our show, and I'm excited to have him on here. He's a longtime Detroit radio personality, and he's now the play-by-play announcer with Wayne State Warriors football, and he does some basketball and does a little bit of Michigan State Spartans as well. His name is Sean Baligian, and we're going to come on, and we're going to talk some college football and maybe a little Tigers baseball with Sean. Good afternoon, Sean. How you doing?
It's a pleasure. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. I didn't realize this, but Wayne State's colors and logo looks like the CFL's Edmonton Elks a little bit.
Yeah, you know what? Good call. No doubt about that. And I've had a blast calling their games since 2009. I had done some college football years ago at the University of Toledo. Go Rockets. And the former AD at Wayne State had asked me if I wanted to do it. I left after my son was born because you're gone all the time. And I said, yeah, let's this ought to be fun. And I'll tell you what, D2 football is an outstanding brand of football. Obviously, you've seen a lot of guys move on from D2 football to the National Football League, some at Wayne State, of course, but yeah, it's a blast, and season kicks off tomorrow, as a matter of fact, as we travel down to Tiffin, Ohio.
That's not too far of a drive, and it's a 6:05 kickoff against the Tiffin Dragons. What kind of a game are you expecting opening night on the road for your team, Wayne State?
You know what? A lot of turnover with our roster. This is year 2 under former Michigan great Tyrone Wheatley. So, there's a lot of turnover. Still trying to build it up. You know how these rebuilds go. I think that the team will be improved. That's a big statement. But listen, there is no rest in the GLIAC. I mean, it really is just such a buzzsaw. Every week somebody can knock you off in the GLIAC. And I've been around long enough at Wayne State, when we were the top of the conference for a few years. And now when we're trying to go back up, that is one absolute truth. Tiffin used to be in the conference. They aren't any longer, but this is a team that has, really progressed over the years, especially since they left the GLIAC. And, they're building something special down there. So, as always, with the first game and so much turnover now in the college football, we don't really know what to expect. And quite frankly, Chris, I think that's some of the fun of it. I think in years gone by, you had a pretty good idea of what was going to transpire early on in the season, but with so much turnover in so many places in college football, listen, that's my long-winded way of saying your guess is as good as mine.
college football remind you a little bit about the OHL because every year is different in the OHL with the turnover, and to me, I see similarities between the OHL and college football too.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting comparison. You and I were just talking before we went on. Boy, I miss the Ontario Hockey League. I was very privileged to do games for 14 years, 13 years, I believe, and I miss it. It was a blast. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, a lot of moving and guys moving on, and even some moving with the trades. But obviously, in college football, the portal has really been a difference maker for so many teams, both good and bad. So, yeah, you just get used to it. Every year truly is a new year.
Absolutely. And I want to say the Saginaw Spirit, congratulations to them for winning the Memorial Cup. They beat the London Knights in a terrific tournament. And the OHL, I think, made the right decision coming to the state of Michigan. And even Flint lately has been a much improved hockey team. Could you ever see maybe a third team coming to Michigan in the OHL at some point?
It would be awesome. Don't get me wrong. I miss it right in my backyard. I mean, Chris, literally
Thomas.
one of the best things about working for the Plymouth Whalers for so many years, and I did work 1 year for Saginaw, was that the arena was 3 miles away from my house. 4 miles away
Perfect.
from my house, so it was absolutely perfect. But I'm not sure a third in Michigan would work. I wouldn't know where to put it. I guess that would be my concern. I think in the Detroit area, there's just too much going on. There are too many choices, so to speak. And so sometimes I think a league like the Ontario Hockey League, as great as it is, and quite frankly, one of my favorite levels of hockey, I think sometimes you kind of get lost in the mix. Whereas in a town like Flint or a town like Saginaw, you can be the show there. You can be the thing that everybody talks about. And I couldn't be happier for Mr. Goslin and Chris Osgood and the entire management team up there for the Saginaw Spirit for winning the Memorial Cup.
Absolutely. Hey, I wanted to bring this up to you before we get to college football. What are your thoughts on the death of the Goudreau brothers, Matthew and Johnny last week, killed by a drunk driver in New Jersey, just minding their own business, riding their bikes on a country road there.
It's just such a tragedy, especially before what was to be, just a day that everybody would remember and a wedding and everything. It's such a tragedy. I mean, it's no surprise to me, Chris, that so many people around the hockey world are sharing wonderful stories. I heard nothing but good things about the guy. I think thus the moniker Johnny Hockey. And Cole Caulfield was so moved. Of course, he decided to change his jersey number to honor him, and I think that's a pretty big statement as well. And Cole Caulfield's about as classy as a kid you could ever imagine. I had a chance to talk to him in the past, and just a tragedy. I think you put hockey second. You really do in a situation like this. Two good guys that were family men and did a lot for their communities and did a lot for a lot of people. It's just a terrible, terrible tragedy. It really is. I mean, it breaks your heart.
Absolutely, and to me, I still think the penalties for drunken and driving aren't severe enough, and I think there's more of it now than ever before. Even
Yeah.
with all the information about it, I just find that there's more of it, and it's just senseless. Too many people die every day in Canada and the states and around the world from drinking and driving.
Yeah, it really is. It's something while we've come a long way and we really have. I agree with you. I think we could be stricter in something like this. It's really simple. Being the father of two young kids, I tell them all the time, listen, I know that when I say young, they're of course young adults now, but I tell them all the time, listen, I know you're gonna be out there and you're gonna have a few, but you get a free pass from me if you promise me you never ever get behind the wheel or never ever get in the car with somebody who's been drinking. I will pick you up regardless where you are, no matter what time it is. You get a free pass. I won't get angry at you, et cetera, for being out late, whatever the case may be. I wish that all of us would put that kind of impetus on it. It's just something that shouldn't happen.
I'm hoping one day in the future them to make future vehicles with breathalyzers in them to maybe even stop it before they even start up the vehicle in
Yeah,
the
why
future.
not? No, I why not? It really it's a tragedy, and one that's so easily could be avoided. It just breaks your heart.
And you see it too often with professional athletes and celebrities too. It's like spend the money, get a cab, get an Uber, get a designated driver. And part of my former career was to stop people from drinking and driving. And that was my part, was to communicate with them and tell them, look, we want you to come back here and come back alive. And that's it's just I find there's more of it than ever before.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't get it. It's something that, I made the choice a long time ago. That's just not something I'm going to do. That's and
Yep.
especially, forget about what you can do to hurt yourself or hurt others. I mean, that's first and foremost. I think a lot of times, especially if you have jobs that people recognize, you can lose your job, you can lose everything,
Yep.
even if you're fortunate enough not to hurt somebody.
Yep.
It's just not worth it.
Absolutely. All right, Sean, I wanted to get into some college football. What were your thoughts on the opening week of college football? I'm a Michigan fan, and I know you're a Spartans fan. They both won, and Wayne State doesn't open up until Thursday. So, just quick thoughts on the return of college football. For me, I've got the CFL right now, college football here, and the NFL. This is a great time of the year for sports.
Yeah, it is. In my pecking order, I think anybody that knows me, I'm a hockey fan first, but college football is a close second. I'm honored to be a Heisman Trophy voter. I mean, that's just a really, truly cool thing. But, in regards to Michigan State, I've said this for years, and I think this year it's very applicable. I think these early games, when you talk about the opponents that they were both playing, there's nothing good that can come out of these games. Nothing. If you win big, people are going to go, big deal. You're supposed to win big. If you just squeak by, people are going to go, ooh, what's wrong? And of course, if you lose, people are going to think that it's the end of your program. So there's nothing good that can come out of whatever result you get. So you just find a way to win and move on and focus on, bigger games coming up. Obviously for Michigan, it's a huge game coming up against Texas. Quite the measuring stick, to be sure. And for Michigan State, it's a big game against Maryland, by their standards. I think Jonathan Smith, especially with his schedule, they're sitting back saying, maybe we could be a bowl team this year, with the schedule. And I think a win against Maryland at Maryland would go a long way. Michigan's going to be up against it, and there's no doubt about that. But boy, it's going to be one of the games, if not the game, of the college football weekend over in Ann Arbor.
What I don't understand is why wouldn't they have Texas and Michigan opening game on prime time instead of Fresno State Bulldogs? Sean, I just don't understand the logic for that.
I think my guess is, this is just a guess. I think this is something that, maybe the network decided we want this to be our high noon game. This is the game that we're selecting and we're putting a circle around because, there's that if you will, bidding on what game goes to what network and everything. So just a guess, 100% a guess. I think that was probably the situation that Fox said, not. We want this as a Big Ten. We want this game on our airwaves. That's going to be our high noon game. But again, I'm not privy to those conversations. It's just a 100% a guess.
I guess it's just like the CFL and the NFL. The TV dictates the schedule, and it has a big impact on the schedule.
No doubt about it. And I think that is a situation that, at the end of the day, it's Texas, Michigan. I mean, you're talking about two brands that took a bruise for a little while, but now seem to be back. Obviously, Michigan winning a national championship last year, and Texas being, by a lot of people's estimation, another dangerous team, and a team that should be in the key and upper board, be in the playoff again.
What were your overall assessment of Michigan's win over Fresno State and Michigan State's win over the Florida Atlantic Owls?
Lots to work on for both of them. I'll start with the offensive line for both. I thought the offensive line for both That's an area that I think moving forward, you're going to see improvement. I mean, you need to see improvement. I thought the quarterbacks for both, and I say plural, the quarterbacks for both teams left a lot to be desired. There's no doubt about that. Guys, making their first appearance in Child's case up in East Lansing. We've heard so much about this guy, highly recruited guy, a Jonathan Smith guy. It goes to show you again, young quarterbacks, they're going to struggle no matter what level it is. And I think the same can be said for what we saw in Michigan. Michigan's defense is the real deal. I think we all knew that going into the season, that the strength of this team was definitely going to be the defense and Michigan State's defense. Yes, I get it. It was against Florida Atlantic, but they showed up, they did some things. It gives you a little something to say, maybe that could be a little bit of a surprise. But I thought all in all, kind of similar takeaways from both teams. Michigan State, way too many mistakes. All those penalties were gross. There's no doubt about that. But there's nothing like having a teachable moment and learning a lesson after a win. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to lose a game, and when you can have these teachable moments and an opportunity to get better after a win, certainly that's a coach's dream.
And that Fresno State game, I know it was 30-10 the final, but it was much closer than that. And Will Johnson made the play of the game with that pick six, and he got burned a couple times, but obviously he made the biggest play of the game there. My concern was Michigan. I think their defense played well. Their special teams, their new kicker, I thought was really good. I guess he's got a strong leg. It's just right now, the two quarterback system. I'm not sure about the quarterbacks, and I really think their offense, they have to pick it up if they have any chance of beating Texas on Saturday. And I'm assuming Texas is coming into this game in the Big House as the favorite.
Yeah, I think the last I saw it was 8.5. I think Texas was favored by 8.5. I think that's the last I saw. A lot of what ails them goes back to the offensive line. I thought the offensive line really struggled. They didn't give Donovan Edwards much of a chance. And you're right, when you're trying to find your quarterback and you keep bringing both these guys in, it's tough to get any kind of continuity. I mean, what's the old adage? When you have two quarterbacks, you really don't have one. And I think that was the situation, certainly, to be sure, for Michigan. Which one of these guys are going to find a way to, distance themselves from the other and claim this job? Well, I guess we're going to find out.
Who starts for Michigan on Saturday, Sean?
I think Orji. That's just think being the key and operative word, but I think it'll be Orji.
What do you like about him a little more than Warren? Is it because of his athleticism?
I think so. I think that's the situation. That's what is going to jump out to you. That's my guess. You saw him do some things with his feet, to be sure. I thought one run in particular, kind of showed. I mean, here's a guy that only threw 2 passes. At some point in time, though, you're going to see Davis Warren. I don't think there's any debate about that, because no disrespect to you, Chris, no disrespect to any Michigan fan out there. I think that Michigan's going to find themselves in a hole in this game, and they're going to be forced to throw. In best case scenario, I think they'd love nothing more than to get out there and put a nice long drive together and keep that Texas offense off the field and maybe do some ground and pound. But again, that starts with finding a way to get that offensive line going a little bit and finding a way to get Donovan Edwards going a little bit. Mullings looked good, but I think we all know that Donovan Edwards is a guy that still can be a game breaker. I'm not sure if he's the 1A, so to speak, but certainly he can be a 1B to be sure.
And you're right. If they fall behind early against Texas, they're going to end up having to go to the passing game. So to me, you're right. They need to have a good, strong strive offensively. And to me, I think Donovan Edwards needs the ball at least 15 to 20 times a game.
Yeah, find a way to just put it in his hand, man. I mean, honest to goodness, find a way to put the ball in his hand. He's a guy that makes things happen. There's no doubt about that, especially in space. So, it's going to be a tough game. I mean, Texas is ranked where they're ranked for a reason. Texas is a favorite in the Big House for a reason. So, certainly, this one isn't going to be easy.
What are the expectations from the Michigan fan base and Michigan State fan base for this 2024 season? And quick thoughts on the NCAA sanctions. Do you think they were too harsh on Michigan and Jim Harbaugh?
I think a lot of Michigan State fans kind of feel where I am. I know that there's a lot of work to be done. I know that there isn't a whole heck of a lot of depth. I mean, last year was a disaster on and off the field in so many different ways. But I think there's a little stability there with Jonathan Smith. I think I'll speak to it. I think he's a good dude. I think he gets it. I think he wants to be where he's at, and that's half the battle. As I said, if you can find a way to get to 6-6 and go to some bowl game, I think for Michigan State, that would be a victory for Michigan. I know that Michigan fans always have, a high expectations, even when they were struggling. It's Michigan, and I understand that. But I think even the most diehard Michigan fan has to say, with all the losses, and obviously with Coach Harbaugh, going to the NFL, there was going to be a step back this year. Now, what is a step back? Is a step back 9-3? Is a step back 8-4? I think it's definitely possible. I think when you look at what Oregon has, what Ohio State has, obviously Texas on the schedule, and all of a sudden USC looks like they have a defense for the first time in a few years. Yeah, your mind has to start thinking that way under Coach Moore. As far as the stuff against Coach Harbaugh goes, obviously we'll find out all the Connor Stallion stuff once we get into 2025. There's more stuff coming. I don't know. For me, I thought it was a little bit too much for the initial stuff. If it really was a case of meeting in the COVID no meat zone and getting a breakfast burger or whatever the case may be, I thought it might be a little too much. But I think what irks the NC2A is the perceived dishonesty or I can't recall type of stuff. And if you watch the Connor Stallions documentary, the I can't recall stuff popped up a little bit. And I think that perhaps is what added to it a little bit. And I think what's going to add to it when the NC2A comes down with all the sign stealing and Connor Stallion stuff in 2025. I think that's the stuff, the I can't recall stuff that people are just going to shake their heads about.
Any chance Harbaugh ever comes back to college football? I don't think so.
No way. No way. I think he did what he wanted to do at the place that he wanted to do it. My jaw would drop. My jaw would drop if he ever came back to college football. I think that check that off the box. Check that box off the list. He won. He won as big as you can win at his alma mater, and now he's going to want to try to do what he came so close to doing, and that's winning in the National Football League as well.
In terms of all-time great Michigan coaches, where would you rank Jim Harbaugh up there?
Well, you have to say, to win 3 Big Ten titles in a row is huge. I kind of chuckle. I think for a while, Michigan fans, because it was Michigan State that did it a couple times, and because it was Ohio State that did it, they didn't put as much of a premium on the Big Ten title. And I'm sorry, I'm old school. I think it all starts, everything you want to do starts with taking care of business in your conference. And when you go beyond that and have the success he did and win a national championship as he did, while the longevity wasn't there compared to other coaches, boy, oh boy, in my lifetime, you have to say Michigan, they didn't have any higher heights than they did under Coach Harbaugh.
I think if they ever do one, I think they should do a statue of Jim Harbaugh in the future.
That would be interesting. Yeah, that would be interesting. And his legacy to that program can't be denied. Obviously he was part of a team that won a Big Ten back in '86, and certainly he was a heck of a player at Michigan. Some big memories. I think they finished number 2 in the nation in 1985 as well. So yeah, some big memories at Michigan.
Okay, Sean, is Sharon Moore, do you feel he could be the right guy to continue the success behind Jim Harbaugh? And what are your thoughts on the new defensive coordinator, Don Wink Martindale, and will his approach work in college football with the defense from the NFL?
I think, number one, you have to give Sharon Moore time. I think that's the most important thing. And part of that is, well, who did he bring in? He brought in a pretty good one in Wink Martindale, no doubt about that. Look, I don't care if Coach Harbaugh was still here. This was a team that was going to take a step back this year. And I hope that people don't judge Coach Moore for that. Again, it's Michigan. I understand there are huge expectations and that's a pretty big thing, but I hope that people don't blame Coach Moore if they do go 8-4, because I think this was a team that was probably going to go 8-4, 9-3, regardless. Again, with all the losses, guys going to the National Football League and everything. So I think let's see what Coach Moore is all about into year 2. I wouldn't judge him so rashly or harshly, if you will, based on what happens this year. Now, if the bottom drops out, all bets are off. But I wouldn't think the bottom drops out. I thought Wink Martindale was a great hire. I thought he was a great get. This is a guy that's got a lot of passion. This is a guy that obviously has a good name for himself. I think when you can go out and get a coach the caliber of that, that's a pretty good hire.
And how much did that national championship mean to Michigan? Obviously, not having won one since 1987, and really that 97 one was, I believe, shared with Nebraska. So that championship is just so special. And one thing too, they're going to find out, and you get this in pro sports too. When you're the defending champions, teams are going to come after you even harder and stronger than even before when you were the contenders. Now that Michigan's got the title, everybody's going to be wanting to go out and knock off the champs.
Well, it wasn't an easy time for Michigan the previous decade. There's no doubt about that. They weren't beating, Ohio State head to head. They didn't do it very often to Michigan State. Michigan State was able to win multiple Big Ten conferences, go to the college football playoff. Ohio State, obviously, all the success they had. This was huge for Michigan fans. Their world had been turned upside down. Make no mistake about that. So it was huge for Michigan fans. And, regardless of all the smoke and all the allegations out there, you guys saw with your own 2 eyes Michigan win the national champion. I'm a firm believer that Michigan should be considered the national champion. I don't think the NC2A is going to go as far as to, take games away or take wins away or anything like that. They're the national champions. That's the way it is. People are going to talk, but people always talk. People always are trying to take away from your success. And it's a tale as old as time. You all saw Michigan win the national championship, and that's a memory that'll last for a lifetime.
Absolutely. Hey, Sean, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the Spartans before we get back to Wayne State. Michigan, what are your thoughts on their game against Maryland, and what areas would you be worried about going against the Maryland team on the road? And also, what's your involvement like with the Spartans radio broadcasts?
Well, you know what? I've taped some things before for Michigan State football. I've taped some, opens and things like that. I've done Michigan State hockey up there. It's always great to go up to that venerable old arena and do a game up at Munn. But in regards to Michigan State, okay, Childs shook off the first game jitters. Now we're going to need this kid to be the stud that so many people think he's going to be. Maryland had some losses as well. Make no mistake about it. This is a team that, looks to take the next step proverbially, but it's a situation where they have to incur some losses as well. Maryland's a heavy favorite for good reason. I want to see more stability out of the offensive line. I think there were just big moments of confusion. Certainly, if you make the mistakes penalty-wise that you made against Florida Atlantic, you're just asking for a long, long day against a team like Maryland. But I expect Childs to take a step up. I think this is a game they can win. I really, truly do. So I think a lot of it's going to start on that young man's shoulders.
Absolutely. And it's like hockey too. In football, it all starts with the quarterback, hockey, goalie, baseball, and pitching as well. And I'm looking forward to this game too, and the Michigan-Texas game. Now, I wanted to ask you, Sean, I forgot what I was going to ask you. We're going to get to Wayne State football now. Sorry about that. I wanted to ask you, what are the expectations for this 2024 Wayne State Warriors football team led by Tyrone Wheatley? And what is one of his biggest assets as a head coach going into his second year with Wayne State?
It's interesting because I think what Tyrone Wheatley brings to the table is, number one, he's Tyrone Wheatley. I mean, he's got an air about him. I mean, this is a guy. I know you're a Michigan fan. He was a Michigan legend, went and played in the National Football League. He is legitimately one of the best athletes the state of Michigan ever produced. I mean, not only a football player, but he was a track and field guy as well. I mean, just an incredible athlete. There's an intensity about him that you can see it with your own two eyes. And so I think in year two, this is more about, okay, this is the way we're doing things now. No disrespect to Coach Winters, the previous coach there. I love him to death. We had so much success. I mean, going to the 2011 national championship game is something that none of us will ever forget, but it's Coach Wheatley's team now. And, I think that's one of the things that Coach Wheatley wants to do is okay, that's the way you did things. Now this is the way that we're going to do things. A lot of newcomers, as I mentioned, the transfer portal was busy. Bringing in a lot of his guys is busy. And you see that, whenever a coach takes over the situation. So for me, I want to see them be more competitive in some of the big games, especially against the big dogs. And by that, of course, I mean Grand Valley State and Ferris State, and the opportunity to do that and find a way to win some of these games that are winnable games. I think those 50-50 games last year, more often than not, this is a young team that found a way to lose those games. Now, in some of those 50-50 games, you'd like to flip the script and find a way to win some of those games. I think if I'm being optimistic, I would love, my gosh, it'd be great to sit back and say, this would be great if this is a team that could find a way to 5 wins. I've seen every projection between 2 and 5. I'm going to go on the positive side and hope that it's 5 wins.
Who are some players to watch out for Wayne State Warriors this year?
Well, you know what? It's interesting because when you talk about the turnover, we've got a situation with this team where we have so many different players coming in now. It really is amazing to me. Manny Harris is a wide receiver that I think is a guy to keep an eye on. Elijah Fulks is a long time junior safety on the team, and that's going to be interesting. Justin Cox is a quarterback that we saw a little bit of him last year, and what might he be able to do coming into this team? So much turnover. I'm telling you, Chris, this is the interesting thing is, okay, well, who's going to be the bell carrier? Who's going to be the man, so to speak? We got one heck of a kicker in Griffin Malavansky, who's been there for a long time. So an opportunity for a lot of guys early on to make a name for themselves with the turnover, with the roster turnover, with guys coming in via transfer portal. And so I think if Coach Wheatley was here, he would be one of the first to say, hey, you know what? Let's see what we have. And that's the exciting thing about when you're building a program. Okay, now we kind of poured the foundation. It took all last year and some struggles last year to kind of pour the foundation. Now let's start to furnish this. And the way you furnish it is by younger players stepping up. So I really expect what you see in the Tiffin game and what you might see later on in the season even might be in 2 entirely different things as some of the younger players start to, build on their game and get more reps and get more looks. And so that is what intrigues me about this season, because in years gone by, I could tell you what the exact formations would look like. Who's going to be the quarterback down and down out? Who's going to be fullback? Who's going to be running back? Who's going to be split outside? This year, it isn't like that. There's some up for grabs type of situation in year 2 of the Wheatley era. So, yes, it's in that regard, it's kind of exciting. We'll see how that transpires over the course of the season.
Sean, for those people that are watching this live stream on audio or on my radio station, WQE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, why, what would you tell somebody why they should check out NCAA Division II game and at a game at Tom Adams Field at Wayne State University?
Well, I think number one, you'd be surprised at the level of football. My first year, there was a guy by the name of Joik Bell that was absolutely dominant. I mean, absolutely dominant. And I told anybody that would listen, this is a guy that can play in the National Football League. And we obviously know that Joik Bell made his way to the National Football League and was a pretty darn good player for the Detroit Lions in particular. He won D2's version of the Heisman Trophy, is something called the Harlan Hill. So many guys coming out of Ferris, so many guys coming out of Grand Valley State. There's no doubt about that. The GLIAC conference is the toughest conference in Division II. I think you could ask anybody anywhere, and they'd probably tell you the same thing. It really is the black and blue division. Some unique spots. I'm telling you what, on the west side of the state, you could go out to Grand Valley. It's some of the best tailgating you'll find anywhere. It's spread out all over campus. It's really a unique game day experience. And then closer to home for me, and Chris, I gave you an invite. College football in Midtown Detroit is pretty special, where I always say you look to one end zone and there's the venerable Fisher building, right? And then you look to the other end zone and just over the horizon, you can see Ford Field and you can see Comerica Park and you can see the RenCen. It's a unique place for college football. It's got a pretty cool game day experience as well. And I can't stress this enough. I think people would be surprised at the caliber of play and player in Division II football.
What's the best way for people to purchase tickets for the Wayne State Warrior games? Would it be on the website?
Yeah, you could go to the Wayne State website. Usually there are still tickets available on game day. You can go to the ticket office and take care of that. But it really is a fun experience. I think you'll all enjoy it. To have that special place carved into Midtown Detroit is a really special experience, and I think it's one that every student athlete who's been there, embraces that experience. And thankfully, we've got good leadership, a heck of an AD with Erica Wallace, and onward and upward for Wayne State athletics.
What are some keys to a road win tomorrow against the Tiffin Dragons? And what do you expect from the Tiffin Dragons team that could be challenging for Wayne State tomorrow night?
They're a lot like us in regards to they had a lot of turnover. And when you have, some guys that are still trying to gain a foothold, it's interesting. Sometimes mistakes can happen. Sometimes guys answer the bell and take the bull by the horns. And sometimes it's a situation where, they're not ready for that moment just yet, perhaps. So there's a lot of that going on. I think with this team, it's forget about what transpired last year. Last year left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. There's no two ways about that. But I think this is a young team that learned together. And I think that's very important. And for the new guys coming in, they don't want any part of that. And now these guys that were young last year, although still young, aren't exactly young. It always makes me laugh when you hear somebody say, oh, this guy's a sophomore, or this guy's a junior, or whatever the case may be. Well, after 4 or 5 games, are they really inexperienced again? Are they really in that situation? I think once you get those games under your belt, and a lot of these guys have game experience now, you're not really inexperienced anymore. So it's no hanging to the head if things get tough. No, gosh, we're out of it. Just keep swinging, keep chopping away.
What time is your pregame show for tomorrow night, and is it available on the website as well for people that want to listen to your broadcast online?
Yep, absolutely. No, I appreciate you for doing that. We start a half hour before the game, so we'll be on at about actually 5:30. So we'll have about a 35-minute pregame show. We do that for road games. For home games, we do tomorrow is, check that, 20 minutes before kickoff, 35 minutes for the home game. So yeah, we're looking forward to it. It's a lot of fun, and we have a conversation with the coach in the pregame, and usually have a senior spotlight and a lot of talk. My broadcast partner tomorrow is former Warrior Brady Beaton, who was part of a pretty special team that went 9-3 in 2019. And he, of course, being a former Warrior, he's got green and gold on his heart, to be sure.
Absolutely. Hey, Sean, do you have time for a few more minutes? A couple more quick questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I just wanted to ask you a couple of Detroit Tiger questions, and maybe one about the Detroit Lions, who are having probably their biggest expectations they've had since probably maybe the Barry Sanders era as well. But as for the Tigers, I wanted to get your thoughts quickly, Sean.
Yeah.
Overall assessment on this 2024 Detroit Tigers team, and yes or no, do you feel this team is capable of making a September push for a wild card spot?
About what I expected. I thought to myself when this year around 500. The good news about that, though, the positive that I'm taking out of it is it's all the young players that are pushing it forward. In years gone by, you had this veteran or that veteran, kind of leading the way. I think it's the young players that are pushing it forward. And so that gives me hope of optimism. I think 4.5 is just too much to make up. I really do. I have some friends convinced that they're going to find a way to get that wild card spot. I hope they're right. I hope I'm wrong, but I think 4.5, especially with a makeshift pitching staff, I think it's just too much room to make up in the next 4 weeks. I hope I'm wrong. I've been wrong before, but I hope I'm wrong. But no, there are things to be positive about, to be sure.
Yeah, they have 5 more games on this road trip. I guess 2 more against San Diego, who are a very good club, and then 3 against Oakland. To me, if they don't go 4-2 or 5-1 in these series, then I really don't think the wild card push is going to happen, because right now every game matters. And if they can't, San Diego, they got 2 more games against a very good San Diego team. And then Oakland, I have a feeling Oakland is going to be difficult, because Oakland, these guys are professional athletes, Sean, and nobody likes to lose. And I really think they're going to be, a lot of them are going to be playing for jobs next year. So I don't think the Oakland series is going to be a piece of cake either.
Yeah, they're not as bad as they've been in the past. They're not good. Don't get me wrong. They're not good. What, 61-78. They're not a good baseball team by any stretch of the imagination, but they're not the disaster that they've been in recent years, and certainly Chicago White Sox level. That's good news for the Tigers. The positive side, you have a series left against the White Sox, which should be, you should blow that away. There's no doubt about it. But a couple series against the Orioles yet, I don't think it's as favorable as a lot of people want to make it out to be.
And I think this team, the Tigers, being 70-69 right now, without major contributions from Spencer Torkelson, who has regressed this year, is huge. And I can only wonder what the record would be if Torkelson could hit 270 with 30 home runs and 80 RBIs, because that's what I had him penciled in for this year. And this year, unfortunately, he took a step back.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. The good news is obviously he came back and looked to straighten himself out a little bit. He had just a monster August, and that was huge. I think that was really, really huge for him. His OPS was 945. He hit 308. He did have 3 homers, but most importantly, you saw him get that OPS back up into the 900s and everything. So I think he needed that personally, and I think the fan base needed to see that. Okay, let's not give up on this guy quite yet. So I think that was a big part of perhaps this resurgence in August of this past year.
And in terms of all-time great Tiger seasons by a pitcher, where do you rank Tarek Skudrow? And do you see the Tigers and Chris Ilitch giving him a big contract?
Boy, that's a great question. I always like to sit back and just judge the guys that I've seen. I think Justin Verlander a couple different times, 2011 in particular, was unbelievable. I have a tough time saying that anything would top that, but here's Skubal. with a 2.5 ERA, a .93 WHIP, having the strikeouts that he has right now, boy, yeah, you gotta put it right up there. I hope that Christopher Ilitch and this management decides to lock him up for a long time, but that's a big factor right now. How much is Christopher Ilitch going to reinvest into this team? We don't know the answer right now. We don't. We've been told that when they're close, we'll do what we need to do. What we haven't seen a whole heck of a lot of it yet. I would hope that you lock a guy up like that up, but I'm not entirely sure.
And finally, I had to ask you this too, Sean. Overall thoughts on this Detroit Lions team, and can this team live up to the hype and the huge expectations from the Lions fan base and the Detroit media? And I think it's been since the early 90s, since the Barry Sanders era, they've had this much expectation and excitement about the Lions.
Yeah, I always go back to after the 91 season. The Lions went 12-4, went to the championship game, lost to Washington. And the start of 92, I mean, the expectations were sky high. And in game one, Chris, the Chicago Bears scored literally on the last play of the game. Some guy named Jim Harbaugh, whatever happened to him, threw a touchdown pass and broke all our hearts. And that season just seemed to be off the rails. But it was very different. They lost a couple of offensive linemen, one obviously in Mike Utley that was paralyzed. Eric Andelsek died in a horrific accident in his own front yard, for goodness sake. So there were things in place that, I guess taking a look back, it wasn't going to be as easy as we thought it was going to be. The answer to this year is yes, absolutely, positively. I honestly, truly believe, and I think a lot of people around here in the Detroit media believe that this is a team capable of finally punching their ticket to the Super Bowl. You have to give Brad Holmes all the credit in the world. I mean, what he's done with this roster is amazing, and he's got an incredible credit line that because of that. And to Dan Campbell for what he did to change the culture around here. Chris, you probably know I did pregame shows for television and postgame shows for radio and television forever and a day. And the culture around here was always awful. And I was talking to my old partner, Lomas Brown, and
Yes.
Lomas and I were talking about walking out of Ford Field back in 2019. And it's the first week in November, and you're going, good gosh, there's 2 more months left of this. Oh my gosh, because the guys in the room were done. They were shot, for Dan Campbell to flip that switch and get that culture turned around as quickly as he did was huge. And this is a team that, when you look at them, they're not without question marks. We still don't know what this secondary is going to be, but I'll tell you what, offensively, they could be lethal. I think they have the best offensive line in the National Football League. What's next for Hutch? How high is the ceiling yet? This is a guy that's still only going to get better and improve. So those are the things that have me excited about this season. And I really, on a personal level, I honestly really do think that they're going to find themselves in the Super Bowl. And unfortunately, it's going to be against the Kansas City Chiefs, who will be going for history. In my opinion, I think they're going to be the first team that wins 3 straight Super Bowls.
I'm saying the Eagles. I'm an Eagles fan, and I think they're going to bounce back from last year's meltdown. And Nick Sirianni, he's on the hot seat. If this Eagles team doesn't get and win the NFC East and go far in the NFC playoffs, I think Sirianni will be gone at the end of this year. Philadelphia is really hard on coaches and quarterbacks and their expectations. And San Francisco, you can't count them out as well. Hey, before I let you go, Sean, I was lucky enough to get an NFL media pass for the draft in Detroit in April. And I'll tell you this, I know Detroit loves the Red Wings, the Pistons, the Tigers. They love their college football. But if the Lions ever win a Super Bowl, I think it would be the biggest parade in the history of Detroit sports.
It's football town. I've said it once. I've said it 10,000 times. The Lions are gold around here. They are. I mean, even when they were struggling, the Lions, that's the top show in town. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. This town loves its Lions, and a lot of the people love to hate the Lions, and it's an interesting dynamic, but I couldn't agree with you anymore. I think that'll be one of the greatest parties in the history of parties.
It was a great experience. The opening night, 275,000 people. And for me, who's still in terms of experience, a rookie in this industry, it was just so overwhelming, but it was such a great experience. And I was so impressed about the cleanliness and safety of downtown Detroit. And I have to get to a game, even though I'm an Eagles fan, I would like to get down to a game at Ford Field because the Lions do have one of the best fan bases in the National Football League too.
And Ford Field is still such a beautiful stadium. It really is. It was, the Silverdome where they used to play. I always used to say it was a dump, but it was our dump. You know what I mean? It was the place where my buddies and I used to go to games together. And, I was fortunate enough to cover some games, obviously at the Silverdome, but more specifically at Ford Field. And a lot of good memories, but you're right. It would be the party to end parties if the Lions win a Super Bowl.
And things are looking up in Detroit. The Red Wings, I think, will make the playoffs this year. As for the Pistons, they have to be better than last year, and that's all I'll say about the Pistons.
Yeah, a lot of work to be done with them. The Red Wings, I think they'll be better. I'm not sure it equals the playoffs, though. I think Buffalo's going to be a lot better. I think Montreal is going to be a lot better. This division that they play in is still so tough, and even the top echelon of the conference, Boston isn't, or of the division, Boston isn't going anywhere. Toronto isn't going anywhere. Tampa's slipping a little bit, but they're still the Lightning. So it's going to be difficult. There's no doubt about that. But Steve's doing it the right way, and I think eventually it's going to turn out very, very, very well.
Finally, Sean, where can my audience follow you on social media and your podcast as well?
I am on Twitter at Sean P. Bally. I'm on Facebook as well, and we put a lot of the podcast stuff off the air or unsyndicated or What the Puck, WUT, the Puck. I do a podcast with Matt Shepard. Matt's an old friend of mine, and we do it a couple times a week. And still doing some stuff for Woodward Sports. As a matter of fact, Neil Rule and I are going to be doing the Lions pregame show for Woodward Sports. So, keeping busy, calling games, enjoying life. It flies by. So take a moment and stop and smell the roses.
Absolutely. And like I said, the fall is a great time of the year. And I think it's an exciting time in Detroit with, like you said, the Red Wings starting up. The Tigers are on, I think they're on the way up. And as for the Lions, huge expectations. And hey, Sean, I want to say thank you so much for giving us some time out of your busy schedule to come on and talk some college football and to learn a little more about Wayne State football. And I definitely will let you know, because I would like to come up and cover a game as media and experience Division II NCAA football as well.
Anytime, pal. It's a pleasure chatting with you. Let's do it again soon.
And good luck to your Wayne State Warriors. And I will do my best to tune into your broadcast tomorrow night and have continued success in your career, Sean. And thank you so much for coming on today.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, that was season 8, episode 44 today with Sean Baligian, the play-by-play announcer for the Wayne State Warriors as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed my show with Sean Baligian, and you guys can check his podcast show out on all major platforms called Off the Air with Sean Baligian, and he co-hosts with Matt Shepard, who used to do the Detroit Tiger games as well. And the Wayne State Warriors, his broadcast tomorrow night is at 5:30, 6:05 kickoff against the Tiffany Dragons. And I am going to try to get down to Wayne State University to a game this year as well. And Sean Baligian did some OHL work for the Plymouth Whalers when they were there before they moved to Flint, as well as Saginaw. Before I wrap up our show, guys, I wanted to make an announcement. And my next live with CDP Sports and Entertainment talk show, sponsored by BarryCullen.com and on WQEE 99.1 FM, is going to be Monday, September 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern with my special guest, Linda Bout. She is a stand-up comedian out of Hartford, Connecticut. She's a native of New Jersey, and she has performed stand-up comedy all across the states and in Canada, including the Hogtown Comedy Festival as well. So Linda Bout will be on my next show on Monday, and then Tuesday, September 10th at 8 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to have Pat Bernard on for his 5th appearance, and he is a reporter with the Edge of Philly Sports. And Pat and I are going to talk about the 2024 Philadelphia Eagles and break down the game between the Eagles and Packers this Friday night, 8:20 from Brazil as well. And Thursday football, the Baltimore Ravens take on the Kansas City Chiefs tomorrow night, 8:15, as the NFL season is back as well. The next Argo Bounce Live audio show with Nick Small and myself will be next week, and Nick and I will break down the Argos Tiger Cats Labor Day game, which they lost 31-28, and we'll also break down the game against Ottawa this Saturday night, which is a huge game for second place in the CFL East as well. Before we go, guys, if you like local, small craft, I'll reword this again. If you guys love local craft beer, check out Wellington Brewery at 950 Woodlawn Road West here in Guelph. Telephone number 519-837-2337, extension 101, or check out wellingtonbrewery.ca. They've been around here in Guelph since 1985, and I had one of their lager beers. They have IPA, lager, ales. They have really good local craft beer. So again, check out the wellingtonbrewery.ca or pop by again at 950 Woodlawn Road West in Guelph. And a shout out to their retail and tap room manager, Kaylee Kirk, who was nice enough to give me a sample of their beer. And big thumbs up to Wellington Brewery. And again, check out the website, wellingtonbrewery.ca. Another shout out to, guys, is to one of my favorite breakfast and restaurants here in Guelph. It is called Savaki Flame. Savaki Flame at 206 Speedville Avenue West, Unit 4 here in Guelph, Ontario. Telephone number 519-265-4200. And they have 7 days a week breakfast. And they also do dine-in, takeout, and catering for all occasions, corporate office parties, family events. So again, check out Savaki Flame. You can find them on Facebook. And again, they're located at 206 Speedville Avenue here in Guelph, 519-625-4200. And my favorite food at Savaki Flame is their blueberry pancakes and their veggie hummus wrap with their world famous salad and salad dressing as well. And a shout out to their owner Jerome and their waitress Krista, who's been there for a long time as well. All right, guys, as always, if you're looking to adopt a pet, check out the Cambridge and District Humane Society at 1650 Dunbar Road in Cambridge, Ontario, 519-623-7722, or visit their website at cambridgehumanesociety.org. If you're looking to volunteer, check out the website. And all the animals' profiles are on cambridgehumanesociety.org. And if you're also looking for a 50-50 draw, they're doing one for September. You can get your tickets through their websites and then click on events as well. Before we wrap up this show, guys, I'm going to play an interview that I did last week at the Guelph Rib Fest with former Sportsnet Blue Jays reporter, and now he is the lead singer for a tribute band called Simply Skinnered. And this interview is with Barry Davis, and this is courtesy of my YouTube channel. I want to say thank you to my 444 subscribers, and if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Barry Davis from Guelph Rib Fest. Chris Palme, radio host of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show on WQEE 99.1 FM. I'm here at Guelph Rib Fest tonight, and I have a special guest. His name is Barry Davis, and he's the lead singer for Simply Skinnered, playing here at the Guelph Rib Fest tonight. And we're going to speak to Barry for a few minutes. How you doing, Barry?
Well, it's been an amazing night here at the Guelph Rib Festival. Everyone's here having a good time, and the music's been great.
Is this your first time playing at the Guelph Rib Fest?
Yeah, I've done a lot of Rib Fest, but the first time here in Guelph playing at this one, it's a great setup, and we're having a blast.
Now, can you tell us a little bit about Simply Skinnered and how long you've been with this band, tribute band?
Well, tonight was actually only my third show. I made my debut with them actually just over a week ago. So 2 months ago, a buddy of mine who's the guitarist in this band called me and said they're looking for a singer. Would I be interested? Now, I already have 5 other bands on the go, but I said, why not? Let's give it a shot and see what happens. And the music instantly resonated with me, and I absolutely loved it. And and here we are 2 months later, and we're playing. So yeah, it's been fantastic so far.
I know you love all the songs, but do you have a couple in particular that you really enjoy playing with the band?
Yeah, actually, and unfortunately, we didn't do it here at the Rib Festival because we ran over time. But a song called "Tuesday's Gone" is probably my favorite to do, as well as "Simple Man." The reaction that you get from the crowd from "Simple Man" and the meaning behind the lyrics is just gives me chills when I sing it.
For me, it's Sweet Alabama, Sweet Home Alabama.
Can't go wrong with Sweet Home Alabama. You know, that always gets the people going, and that's a song that you can never hear too much of.
And what do you got going on this weekend at the CNE then?
So we're playing both Saturday and Sunday. Saturday night at the CNE, we're at the country stage, and Sunday we're at the midway stage. We're there from 8 till 11. So if you're going to be down at the CNE, come check us out, Simply Skinnerd.
Make sure you take the GO train too. It's so much easier to get down there.
I wish we could do that. I wish I could take the GO train.
What are you looking for? What are you looking forward to the most this weekend at the CNE in Toronto?
Well, hopefully great weather, and I know we're expected to have great weather. And the other thing is big crowds. And you know, the last couple of nights we've played here in Guelph and the night before in Lucknow, and just huge crowds and a lot of people loving the music and singing along. And you can't ask for any more than that.
We lucked out with the weather tonight too. This is perfect.
It was absolutely stunning. It's not too hot, not too cold, light breeze in the air, and I've played through a lot of bad weather shows in my life, so this weekend is amazing.
You want to give out a shout out to some of your band members tonight from Simply Skinnerd, and do you guys have a website up?
I'm too new to know about the website. I knew they do have a Facebook page, and it's Simply Skinnerd, spelled SYMPLY. And Skinnerd, of course, the way Skinnerd is spelled, with the Y's instead of the I's. And but now you're putting me to the test. Now I got to remember, it's a big band. There's 7 people in the band. So let me go through female singer, beautiful singer, beautiful voice, Michelle Dubrow. On the drums, Rodney DeFreitas. On the bass, Ernie Pegginger. On the keyboards, Tim Pike. And then our guitarists are Larry Fontaine and Peter Freer. I got them. I got all 7. That's impressive.
And finally, what's one fun fact about either yourself, Barry Davis, or the Lynyrd Skynyrd Band?
I'll give you one. Now, most tribute bands that I've played in, I'm usually way shorter than the lead singer, right? Whether it be Tom Petty, I'm a little bit shorter than he was, way shorter than Rick Ocasek from the Cars. But with Ronnie Van Zant, I have the exact same height, and I'm actually a little bit skinnier than he was. So what do you know? So that's the little fact there for you.
And what ribs are you looking forward to trying tonight?
Oh, well, I'm going to Camp 31, and I'm going to see what they have there, and I'm going to absolutely devour a set of ribs.
And finally, where can my audience follow you on social media? Best place.
Facebook, you can find me at Barry Davis, or you can find We Ain't Petty Official, or the Idiots Dance Band, or Nowhere Men, or Simply Skinnerd, or yeah, I'm all everywhere. You'll find, if you find one, you'll find the rest of them easy enough.
Hey, Barry, I want to say thank you so much for doing this. Again, this is Barry Davis with Simply Skinnerd, and continued success. And it was great to finally meet you in person tonight, Barry.
Yeah, you too, Chris. I've always been a fan of listening to your show, and always a pleasure to be on it. And it's nice to meet you in person.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the ribs.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that was Barry Davis, the lead singer for tribute band Simply Skinnerd. And you can check their website out, simplyskinnerd.com, or on Facebook as well. And Barry was on Sportsnet for many years as the Blue Jays field reporter, and on the Fan 590 as well. So Barry Davis, and check out his bands. He also has a Tom Petty tribute band as well. So, all right, guys, as we wrap up this show, Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is hosted by yours truly, Chris Palme, is on weeknights from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key, the home of Southern sports and talk, the heartbeat of Atlanta. Our radio station's website is wqeefm.radio12345.com. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is live streamed on these platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter /X, Twitch, LinkedIn, and now available on Instagram. You can also check out my website and all my media work and previous radio shows at beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show again is sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles or Cadillacs if you're into Cadillacs as well. And you can call the dealership at 519-824-0210 or email them at info@barrycullen.com. Speaking of Barry Cullen Chevrolet right now, with a new vehicle purchase, you can get a $140 instant rebate on winter tires on a set of 4 new Bridgestone Blizzak winter tires with a purchase or finance or lease of an eligible 2022 to 2025 vehicle. More details at barrycullen.com. Live with CDP merchandise is coming. I am getting a new logo and some new shirts made up. Stay tuned. They are coming. You can also follow this content creator on TikTok at Live with CDP. And I want to say thank you to my 2,400 plus followers on TikTok. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. If you're into webinars, podcasting, live streaming, check out StreamYard.com. And if you're a business, check out StreamYard.com and contact the sales department for pricing for businesses as well. And I've been with StreamYard for 4 years now, and I give them a big thumbs up as well. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Podcast. The audio version is on these platforms: iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify for podcasters, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Pandora, Tuned In, and now available on YouTube Music. So type in Live with CDP Sports Talk on YouTube Music and hit that subscribe notification. And also make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. You can email or text the show Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show at cpame19@gmail.com, or you can text the show at 519-820-7188. If you have comments, questions, suggestions, feedback, I would greatly appreciate any feedback as well. And I want to say thank you to my guest again, Sean Baligian, the play-by-play voice for what. Play-by-play announcer and voice of the Wayne State Warrior football team, and he also does some hockey broadcasts for the Michigan State Spartans and their football team as well. You can check out, I'll put Sean's websites on here right now, guys. You can follow Sean Baligian on Twitter X at Sean P. Bail, or his podcast show is on Apple. It's called Off the Air Podcast. And you can follow that there too on Apple as well. So I want to say thank you so much to Sean Baligian for coming on here today. And good luck to his Wayne State Warriors, who open up their season tomorrow night at the Tiffany Dragons in Division II college football. And their home opener for Wayne State Warriors is going to be on Saturday, September 14th, 1 p.m. at Tom Adams Field at Wayne State University against Finley as well. That's about it. I want to say thank you to everyone watching this show today with Sean Baligian, live streamed and also on my audio platforms and on WQEE 99.1 FM. And sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership. And if you're a local business, I'm looking for more sponsors to come aboard Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, the Argo Bounce Live Audio Show, and the Small Talk Podcast. So if you're interested and you're watching this out there and coming aboard as a sponsor, please contact me at cpame19@gmail.com, or you can contact me through my social media pages as well. Again, my next Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show will be on Monday, September 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern with my special guest, stand-up comedian Linda Belt out of Hartford, Connecticut. The New Jersey native has performed comedy shows all across the states and in Canada, especially at the Hogtown Comedy Festival as well. So if you're a fan of stand-up comedy and the comedy industry, please check out my show Monday, 2 p.m. with Linda Belt. And then Tuesday, September 10th at 8 p.m., I have Pat Bernard, a reporter with the Edge of Philly Sports on, and we're going to talk Eagles, Packers, and talk about this 2024 Philadelphia Eagles team, who is trying to rebound from their meltdown last year as well. Thursday night football, we've got Baltimore, Kansas City at 8:20. Friday night, we have Green Bay and Philadelphia from Brazil as well. And if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, the Bills open up the home season this Sunday at 1 o'clock at Highmark Stadium against those Arizona Cardinals. Again, thank you to Sean Baligian for coming on here today. And thank you, everyone, for watching this live stream and on audio. And of course, those listening on WQEE 99.1 FM, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Again, I hope everybody has a great rest of the day. Enjoy the football weekend, and we'll see you back here Monday at 2 p.m. with Linda Bell. Thanks for watching and listening to Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show with Chris Palme.